Hello. We are going to talk about the project approach. And the project approach is not a curriculum type, it is a way of investigating a topic which is interesting to children and giving them a wide array of experiences that give them a chance to develop all kinds of skills, ideas, concepts, abilities, etc. So it's taking really with preschoolers a deep dive into a subject that's interesting to them and figuring out a whole bunch of ways to understand it. So the project approach really comes from the work of Lillian Katz, who was a professor at the University of Illinois. She worked with some other professors to come up with this sort of structure of investigation. So what it does is it really focuses on experiences, and it gives sort of a wide range of different experiences. So children who are engaged in different ways have different ways of learning about a topic. So, like she says here, the inclusion of project work in the curriculum promotes children's intellectual development by engaging their minds in observation, raising questions and predicting the answers, and conducting investigations and many other intellectual processes as they study selected aspects of their own environments and experiences in depth. One thing that it does is it asks children to ask and answer questions. So we'll get to that a little bit. What is a project? A project in the project approach is an extended, in depth investigation or study of a particular topic, uncovering as well as covering the subject of study. So it's taking one thing that people might be interested in and investigating it as is appropriate for preschoolers. And what might be appropriate for preschoolers is probably much broader than what you would expect. So, right here is the information about choosing a topic. How do you choose a topic? First of all, you want something that's interesting to the kids. If it's not interesting to the kids, they're not going to be engaged. So, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Topics must interest and engage children, generate questions. So even if it's something that's interesting to them, but they don't have any questions about it, it won't work. What you need to do is find a topic that's interesting and then come up with questions. It needs to provide valuable learning experiences and activities. So with preschoolers, something like Mickey Mouse would not be necessarily a good topic because it's not very broad. Um, I don't know what kind of learning experiences you could have around it. And you need to be able to sustain the interest of the kids in the investigation over several weeks. So, generally, in my experience, 3 weeks is about as long as you can do a topic with kids. And it has to be a pretty broad topic. So, if you can keep doing it for 3 weeks, then you're in good shape. Topics can come from children's discussions. You might be sitting in group time and someone says, I noticed that the leaves on the tree outside my window are turning brown. That's a great topic right there. Why leaves change color and fall off trees, or, autumn, trees in autumn is a great topic. An experience children have had. Maybe you have had an experience where there's a building being built near your school and all the children can see it. Building, construction, great topic. Or a book children have read. Maybe they're really interested. My kids, when they were 3, were super into the book Trashy Town. You can do a whole project on trash or recycling or garbage or whatever. Some sample topics: building a house, going to the hospital, the school bus, shoes, pizza. Okay. You need to know that children have experience with this topic in their environment, right? So it can't be something conceptual that they don't understand, that they can't think of, oh, this is how this relates to me. This is how this has touched my existence, right? It has to be most of the children for sure. We need to be able to do firsthand investigation. And that means if you're doing pizza, you need to be able to bake a pizza in your classroom or at your school, or go visit a place where pizzas are being made. There needs to be some way of being, involved firsthand in the investigation. Local resources are favorable and readily accessible. So we live in a great place for all kinds of experts. There are people who know all about bugs at the university. There are people who know all about farming at the Farm Bureau. There's all kinds of stuff in our community that we can draw on. And that makes it a good place to do project approach stuff. It has good potential representation in a variety of media. So you are going to, at the end of your project, do a display or a demonstration or an activity, and you need to be able to show how you've learned, what you've learned, and what your topic is about. And then parental participation and contributions are likely. Parents can become involved. Parents can become involved by, let's say you're talking about a visit to a hospital. Maybe you have someone whose mom is a nurse or whose dad is a doctor. You can involve them that way. More topic selection criteria. It's culturally sensitive, culturally appropriate. Studying Indians would not be culturally appropriate. So how can we learn about the first people in our land, right? That's a better way to do it. Those are not really particularly appropriate for preschoolers, though, because it's hard to understand that. It is potentially interesting to many of the children, or an interest that adults consider worthy of developing in children. Think about this. It needs to be interesting to the children, but it also needs to be worthy of developing. It needs to provide learning opportunities. So, the kids may be super into Paw Patrol, but you can't do a project approach about Paw Patrol. You could do a project approach about dogs, or you could do a project approach about community helpers or police officers or something like that. Police officers might be a little iffy. Community helpers would be a better way to involve that. Ample opportunity to apply basic skills depending on the age of children. There should be things where children are writing down their observations, and writing down their observations may mean drawing a picture. It may mean scribbling out words and translating it to a teacher. It may be having the teacher write down their words. All kinds of things that kids can do that relate to your topic. And it's optimally specific, not too narrow and not too broad. A study of the teacher's own dog? No. All dogs, yes. Buttons, music, seasons. Narrow topics could occasionally provide good mini projects. So pumpkins are a great project topic. Creating a topic web. A topic web is a map of key ideas and concepts about the topic and some of the major topics, subtopics related to it. So here you can see some topic webs that were made about pizza. So one thing that is, I think, a good idea is when you are thinking about a topic, web it with the teachers in your classroom first. And then that will help you do your topic web with your children. So once you, as the teachers, have gone through and thought about what are the things about pizza that we could learn, what do we need to know, how can we relate to that in the classroom, right? How do we, what are some learning opportunities that relate to it? Then go to your children and say, hey, you guys, you know what? We had pizza at lunch the other day, and we were thinking that maybe that would be a fun thing to talk about. What do you think? What do you know about pizza? And then you start writing it down, right? This photo one is really cool because it shows all the things that they talked about when they were doing their topic web. There are 3 phases of the project approach. Phase 1 is beginning the project, and that's introducing and clarifying the topic and the subtopics to be investigated. This is when you're doing your topic web. Sharing experiences and knowledge related to it. This is when you're sitting in circle time and saying, hey, we were thinking about talking about pizza for a couple weeks. What do you know about pizza? And then we make a list of what do we want to know about pizza. And then we figure out how we're going to find the answers. How is pizza made? Where did pizza come from? What kinds of pizza are there? Where can we get pizza? How are we going to figure those things out? Phase 2 is where you do all of your investigation stuff. This is your research, gathering data, finding your information, field work. You can have a class trip. You can have people come to the class. We've done pizza several times at my school, and we have taken a trip to Pizza Hut where they actually got to make pizzas before Pizza Hut was like open for the day. We had a pizza maker from Domino's come and show us in the classroom how to make pizza. And then you are keeping records of your work, documentation. So at the end, you have the ability to show everybody what you did, what you learned, and what you know. And that's concluding the project. And that is going back to that list of questions, seeing if you answered all those questions, and then showing people, parents, other classrooms, what you learned and how it fits into your life. Okay. There are 5 structural approaches of the project approach, and that's discussions to help children identify what they already know, what they have learned, and what they still want to learn. Field work, that's the investigation stuff where we're figuring out opportunities to help children investigate their questions. Representation is the documentation part. How are we figuring out how to show what we've learned and communicate our ideas? Investigations are helping us understand what's going on, and then displays are how we're showing the rest of the world what we learned. This is a handy chart, how these steps, these 5 steps, discussion, fieldwork, representation, investigation, and display, fit in each phase. So for instance, let's just take representation. In phase 1, we are drawing, writing questions, right? We can be writing down those questions. We can be having a discussion about what our prior experiences with pizza are. Hey, can you draw me a picture of what a pizza looks like to you? That's your representation in phase 1. In phase 2, we're going out and we're learning things and we're keeping track of it. And that's how we're doing our representation. And then phase 3 is taking all of that representation documentation and putting it together to show others. Okay. This is a very handy grid for you to understand and know. Phase 1, we're choosing, I think I went backwards. Did I? There's, yeah. Children are choosing what to investigate with some guidance from the teacher. They discuss what they already know, and the teacher helps record their topic web. They list the questions that they want to know, and then they talk about the answers that they might find, and the teachers list their predictions. This is an important part of it. The children are asking questions and predicting what the answers are, so that later on, when we're at the end of it, we can go, oh, this is what we learned because this is what we thought would happen, or this is what we thought we knew about pizza. But it turns out through our investigation and fieldwork, we learned this. Okay. So what are your concerns in phase 1? What experiences have children had? What do they know? What questions are they asking? What misconceptions have been expressed, and how parents can be involved, right? The key events and processes in phase 1 are the initial discussion of the topic, the figuring out the object to study and discussing or speculating about it, topic web, and then questions. And then the children's work is recalling personal experiences. What's my personal experiences, personal memories, discussing and comparing common and different experiences, brainstorming current knowledge and ideas, and formulating personal questions. This is a lot of discussion in phase 1. It's really talking about what's the thing that we're going to talk about for the next couple of weeks. What do we know about it? What do we want to know more? In phase 2, the teacher helps the children plan trips to places where they can do field work and helps them find people to interview who can answer their questions. Now, if you're working in a preschool classroom, really the teacher is going to be doing this work. But it's nice to frame it in a way of, well, I know a guy who works at a pizza shop. Maybe we should ask him if he could teach us how to make pizza. Or who do you think we should talk to about dogs. Can you think of someone that you know or someone out in the community that might know about dogs? And a child may say, oh, well, we got our dog from the Humane Society. I bet they could help us learn about dogs there, right? With adult help, children are using books and computers to find information. You're having class meetings where they're reporting what they find in their field work. And teachers are asking questions and making comments about everybody's findings. If you have a large group, you can break out into smaller groups. So you might have different breeds of dogs that do work. And children are investigating different things and then bringing it back to share with everyone so that at the end, everyone can put their dog information together. Children might make drawings, take pictures, write words, labels, create graphs of things they measured. As they learn more, they can revise what they have made. In phase 2, you are finding experiences for the children that relate to the topic, to the project. You're figuring out what new learning understandings they can acquire. You're also thinking about how your curriculum goals can be met. Are you having writing happening during this? What's your large motor involvement in pizza, right? There's a good book called Pizza, where dad makes his kid into a pizza, and it involves rolling him up in a blanket. You can be rolling your kids up in a blanket to talk about pizza. How can the work be diversified to accommodate individual learning needs and interests? If you have learners in your class who have special needs, how can you involve them in this process of learning? How can you create opportunities for them to shine and to understand what's going on? In phase 2, the preparatory and follow-up discussions, visiting experts, long-term and multi-stage work, and preparing for the field trip, these are all things that the teacher is going to be involved in. So the kids are going to come up with the ideas for investigation, and you're going to try to help make it happen. And the children are doing field work. They're doing follow-up work, going back to the work that they've done to see if it's accurate or how they can change it. They're interviewing experts. They're doing library research. And phase 3, this is the phase where they're showing off what they learned, right? This is the end of the project. And part of that is looking at the questions that they asked and seeing how they have been answered. They decide what to show parents about how they did things, what they learned, and other classrooms. It's always great too, if you have different classrooms, have your kids show their project to another classroom. We did restaurants when I had 3-year-olds, and we had menus, and then we learned about how the restaurant process works. And then we set up a restaurant in our classroom and invited another classroom in so that we could teach them how a restaurant works. You might have parents come to a presentation and show off what the kids have learned. You might have a bulletin board set up just outside your classroom that shows all the things you learned about leaves or trees in the fall or whatever. In phase 3, you as the teacher need to figure out what kind of culminating event would be most appropriate. What kind of imaginative activity would enable children to personalize their recently acquired knowledge? So how can the children show you? And what kinds of main understandings should be consolidated and how? What do you really want the kids to learn, and did they? And then your key events and processes in phase 2 for teachers are putting together that culminating event, drawing conclusions and thinking ahead to other applications of new ideas, and personalizing that new knowledge. Children are reviewing all the work accomplished on the project, evaluating the work and deciding on the most representative pieces, recreating the project learning so that others appreciate the story, imaginative work and fantasy and art, writing and literature, and selecting work from the school records and to take home. Okay. So that is the project approach. And if you are interested in more project approach information, you want to go right here to the Illinois Early Learning Project, illinoisearlylearning.org/PA/. There's a wealth of information about project approach stuff there. There are all kinds of ideas of projects there. So it's a great source of information, as are these books that I've noted above. So, project approach is a really fun way of engaging kids in a specific focus and topic and helping them generate ideas and then learning how their learning works in a lot of ways. Like you, because you start out with a question and you end with the answer to the question, plus what you thought was, what was your prediction? They're learning how their learning works. And that's important because as they go further in school and in life, they're going to need to know how they learn. So, project approach is really great with preschoolers, and there are a lot of great examples out there. You just have to go look for them.